Hello everybody and welcome back to KXP. With the Mun program completed, there's nothing standing in our way from now putting Kerbals on the surface of the Mun, and after seeing how aggressively the POV crowd has been pursuing their milestones, I feel like it's about our turn to take one back as well. So today we are going to take 2 Kerbals and aim to throw them onto the surface of the Mun. So firstly, we're going to start off with the build process. We are going to, rather than a lander, we're actually going to build a rover. I'd like to gain science from several different biomes that we have not visited. Try to collect everything. We're going to bring a scientist to restore the experiments, as well as the pilot to get us there. It'll be a little bit before I put 2 seats on the thing, but we do indeed want to have 2 Kerbals with us. We put a reaction wheel in the center. I like to have a reaction wheel on all my rovers to give them extra control on low gravity planets and moons. So now we are going to focus on the main part of the rover, and that is the science. We're going to get one of each of our experiments that we have available. And this giant radial mounted Science Junior, which is very nice as opposed to the circular one. But that will be restored, same with the mystery goo. Both of those will be restored by the scientists so we can gather science in multiple biomes. And I'd like the scientists to be able to access it pretty easily, so we're going to move around the seat. It's not going to be directly in the front, but it's going to be a little bit before we reach its final resting point for that. But we have the science experiment collection unit to keep everything nice and tidy so we don't have to constantly be taking the experiments from every single one, just mainly restoring instead. So now I want to put a ladder on so I can get my Kerbals up, but I am forgetting the fact that it's the Mun. I can literally just RCS pack myself up, or even if I don't have RCS, I could just jump and it not be a problem. So that ladder is a little superfluous, but nonetheless adds to the look. But that is about all we need. We are going to need solar panels. We're going to need what I meant to say is that is about all the science that we're going to need. We are going to need solar panels and batteries, communication of the sorts. I play around with the struts here for a second to see if I can make like a little railing, but I decided to take it off because I feel like it wouldn't actually help us. In fact, it may just hinder us. Now I'm going to spend some time here working on trying to make a little bit of a sky crane sort of situation to help with our landing, but we go away from that idea eventually. We are going to need to put life support on here because this is a craft like any other, and the Kerbals can run out of oxygen, and they could produce too much carbon dioxide, so on and so forth. So we are going to want to make sure that they have enough life support. Also, since we are not sending this as a lander, this is all that we are going to be sending to the Mun. So essentially they don't have a way back, and they won't for a little while. So we want to be able to make sure that they can survive long enough for us to go and get that craft out there. It would be too much with our current technology to try to send this rover as well as a lander. And so we're going to just turn this into kind of a 2-mission thing, and they'll be able to roam around the Mun and get some science while their return trip is on its way. As you may have noticed early on in the beginning, we put the Bon Voyage probe control on there, so we will be able to pick a destination and then let the computer autopilot its way over, so we don't have to worry about manually driving on the Mun as much. Nice big solar panels. We're going to put this communication dish on the roof, and our rover is starting to look how it will look. Finally we have all of our pieces on there. Like I mentioned before, I'm going to spend some time on that sky crane, but ultimately we can land it without. So let's go ahead and get our action group set up. I have them on different action sets, one for the transfer vehicle, one for the rover. However, we only end up setting the rover, so it was a little bit pointless to specify the action group. Let's go ahead and get our science logged in. We're going to want our solar panels and communication dishes to be toggleable, because if we end up tipping over or tumbling around on the surface, it'd be better if we could bring them in so we don't break them. Because after all, we're not bringing an engineer, so there's no way that we can fix it ourselves if it breaks. Turning the traction control and the brake power up because it is the Mun after all. We're going to put this light here that'll help us see our craft and see what's in front of us if we end up driving in the darkness. And it will be shining directly at one of the Kerbals' faces. I'm going to put this little Commutron 16 on there. This will allow us to control it by probe. And then I noticed that we had a glitched out communication dish in there, so we're going to have to remove that. Getting the reaction wheel a little more center of mass. That'll definitely help control it. And I did want to make sure that the sky crane was on the center of mass as well. There we go, got rid of that extra communications dish. That looks nice and neat. I really like that communication dish. Alright, so what I mean, if you don't know what I mean by a sky crane, the idea is that this will have a couple engines on top that will be able to safely lower ourselves down to the surface and basically act as the landing stage. And I'm not too experienced with making these, so this is definitely not any sort of tutorial on how to make them. A lot of it is me just trying to think. A lot of what you're seeing right now of the no movement is me trying to think of the best way to go about getting this to work. Using the tiny little twitch engines, we do need, of course, to put the right fuel in there because we put monopropellant. And the smallest tank of fuel we have are these Oscars, and so we're going to put it like that, and hopefully that'll work. And spoiler, it does not, partly because I'm not exactly the best at flying things like this, and so it was a lot of it was out of my control. So once again, we're going to abandon that type of landing style in favor of just a simple booster on the back of our rover. But yeah, I'm pretty excited. This Mun Rover 1, there's a chance we'll send a more advanced one later to collect even more science. But for now, it's just the one and only. Let's go ahead. We're going to put an engine and a tank here just because I'd like to test this. I wanted to test the landing engines, the sky crane. And in order to do that, I'm going to need something to deorbit my craft. So let's just throw, it doesn't really matter here, let's just throw something on and get it out in simulation. And as always, the Terror engine will do nicely. Terror engine is just such a workhorse of the space program, early space program. And I'm really wishing that we had better fairings that I could just tidy this up and tuck everything into a nice little fairing. But unfortunately, we don't have access to that technology yet. And just taking one last peek over everything, making sure our staging is correct, I decided to get rid of the crane aspect of it and try to attach it to the side, a little radial mounted. And I want to be able to get rid of them. I feel like having the tanks on there will just be added weight, added clumsiness will ensue, and no need. Alright, check my staging. All is set. Let's go ahead and get this into a simulation. And in that simulation, I learned that I would just be better off landing the thing with this engine here in the back. I think about putting some landing legs on there, but we're not gonna end up saving that tank. We're just going to leave it on the surface. So now we're gonna go ahead and get a Kerbal into the seat and test it out. And I'm gonna share with you one of the test flights because it was just so funny. The suicide burn countdown, we burned at exactly when we were supposed to, and it just goes to show you how precise these things can be. Beautiful. Love to see when it still survives after an explosion like that. But, you know, with our reaction wheel being where it's at, we have plenty of control on the Mun surface, and we can drive around using our wheels pretty easily. As long as we can avoid these big boulders, we'll do just fine. I'm excited for this mission, so let's go ahead, hop back into the VAB, build the rest of our rocket, and then let's not waste any more time. Let's get it out on the launch pad. And we are just going to go with the tried and true Tundra and Octopus combination. And it gives us 3,600 Delta V, which is more than enough to get us to orbit. So not too worried about that. The biggest worry is going to be whether or not the aerodynamics are going to allow us to get to orbit without our payload interfering. And it's about this time that I realized I wanted a pilot. You know, I want to be able to lock to prograde and retrograde. It'll just be so much more useful. So we're going to go ahead and move around some of the experiments, and we are going to put a pilot seat facing forward up there, and then the scientist seat facing backwards to allow for easy collection of the experiments. And since we're adding an extra Kerbal, we're going to double up the life support, so now we have a maximum of 80 days that we can spend before we need to get those Kerbals into a different craft that has more life support. But 80 days should be easy enough. It only takes a couple days to get to the Mun, so it should be no problem. But anyways, now we are taking the Mun program. This is what the KXP POV crew has been working on, getting a Kerbal plant a flag on the Mun. They avoided the Mun probes program, so they've got the head start on us. But with any luck, we'll be taking that milestone home today. Clean launch, healthy thrust to weight ratio, early morning flight. It's gonna be nice. We are joined by Wenless and Tomini Kerman. Wenless has a little bit of experience. Tomini is brand new. And we're gonna leave most of the footage unedited because we just, you know, we did everything pretty efficiently, pretty quickly, and it'll take no time at all for us to get there. Now that we can see that we're Almost out of the atmosphere, we can go ahead and plot in our maneuver. Let remote tech handle it. Days like this that I'm excited, when I know that we are going to be doing a huge mission, something that is going to bring us prestige and science and interest in the program, in the project, and it's just so much fun. And with that, we are now in orbit, and we can start pushing our way to the Mun. We want a nice low pass so we can come in very close to the surface, and that will slow us down. Once after we get into orbit, that will slow us down, that make landing much easier. So now with the maneuver plotted in, nothing less to do except time warp our way and push out. And with the Mun in sight, about to make an eclipse, we go ahead and burn. And it's a very short burn, only a minute and some odd seconds, but nonetheless, it doesn't take too much effort. We've got plenty of Delta V in our tank. In fact, we are going to be wasting some of it just in the fact that it is a bigger tank than we need. But I would rather overbuild than underbuild. And there we go, we pull in a little higher than we would want it, but nonetheless it's still low enough that it will be a slow trajectory, or a slower orbit, making an easier landing. Let's go ahead and time warp our way to the sphere of influence change and get ourselves ready to come down. Can't tell if Wendlass is excited or nervous, but towards the end of there, it looks like she's got a smile, so I say she's pretty excited to do this. Tomini even looks like he's pretty excited. And with that, we are circularized. And we're going to try to come down near where our fallen probe has gone. The first one where we weren't able to get any of the science from. And luckily, that's pretty close to us right now. Our pilot and scientist just leveled up. They are now 2 stars because they have finally made it into orbit. And we did change the setting in the beginning to allow Kerbals to level up automatically. It's very helpful in times like these. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and adjust our trajectory to land as close to that little piece of science as possible. For no other reason except to visit it. If we could see it, that'd be pretty cool, you know, to visit something that we had already sent here on this vast and wide open world map. You ever think about that? You ever think about the fact that Kerbal is an open world sort of thing that, you know, you can walk anywhere on any of the planets and moons. Anywhere you want to go, you can get yourself there. That's, I wonder what the comparison, if you compare other open world games, their map size to, Kerbal Space Program. That'd be interesting to see. Our trajectory shows us that we are going to be landing on the slope of one of the big craters, so we're going to bring it up forward a little bit more to hopefully have a cleaner landing spot. We're going to bring up the landing information from MechJeb to give us our suicide burn countdown. We're going to put away our communication dish and solar panels, and then we are going to get ourselves ready to land. $33 seconds remaining. And just as a reminder, if we burn too late, we will impact too quickly. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. And at 0.8 seconds of burn time, we burnt, so that means we are actually going to hover just above the surface too late. So we decided to kick off our engines and kick them back on to allow that eighth of a second to pass. But as you see here, our suicide burn countdown is now much higher, and it's because we killed off a lot more of our velocity. So we can come here in the cinematic mode and just feather our touchdown and feel pretty comfortable. And there we have it, everybody. We have put Kerbals on the surface of the Mun. And the rover seems to be handling pretty well. We are in a very rocky area, so that's going to be a challenge to get out of here. But look at that, everybody. Safe and sound. Windless is parking the cart. Tomini is going to get out and do some science. Windless is going to plant a flag. We are going to complete the Mun program and be the first Kerbals to conquer in the Janus project. Let's throw on the brakes entirely, and let's go ahead and get Windless out first to plant a flag. So excited. But in going through her options, she realizes she doesn't have a flag. And that's because the seats provided by the external command seat don't have flags storage capacity. So, first Kerbals on the Mun, yes. But the Mun is yet to be conquered because it doesn't actually count as completing the Mun until a flag is put. So, they are going to have to get a ship out here pretty quickly if they want to steal that from the KXP crowd. We did steal the milestone of Kerbals on the Mun, so that's pretty cool, but fortunately it was not exactly the mission parameters we wanted. But we went ahead and did all of our science. We're going to go ahead and get Tomini out, leave the seat. And he is, I did forget to hit the collection, so you can just restore it and then observe it and then collect it so he'll have it, and then we can restore it after that. We're gonna switch back to the craft, collect all the science there, make sure everything is good. And this is good because if anything breaks off of our craft, at least we'll potentially have the science left Let's go ahead and get him boarded back into the seat. And we're going to actually, before we close out today, we're going to take him and Wendless. We're going to take them both and have them visit the Munlander probe. So how we do that is we go into the waypoint manager, and we are going to place a waypoint close in an approximate location to the debris, somewhere nearby, and then maybe we'll drive to it manually once we get there. But let's go ahead and plot that in, and then we come back here and we can right click. We can go into the toolbar and open up the mod menu, or we can right click in the probe brain. We're gonna want our solar panels up before we set our probe to launch, because we want to make sure that we can restore our battery power. But we go and hit the Bon Voyage control panel, click use batteries, hit the current waypoint, and that plots that in, and the route has been found. So all we need to do now is just switch away control from our craft, go somewhere else, and the easiest way to do that is just to go back to the KSC. So spend some time, let the time warp, let the craft move to the target. As we see here, it's going fairly quickly as we time warp our way forward, and then once that reaches 0, we can go ahead and transfer back to our craft, and it will be at the new location. Pretty handy, very handy actually. And it's a nice, safe way of traversing the Mun, but I always recommend saving before switching. And that is because you might not always find yourself in the best predicament once you come back to your craft. So now we have control of our vehicle once again, but control is generous to say, because we are on a very steep hill, sliding sideways, downwards, and soon we're gonna spin around, and then we will really be picking up speed, and that is very dangerous for our Kerbals right now, especially considering we have collisions turned on. So each one of these rocks could take us out at any moment. I should have just left it there. I had come to a complete stop right there in the rocks, but I was feeling adventurous, and I'm like, you know, let's drive to the bottom of this. Let's drive to the bottom of this canyon, but unfortunately I forgot to turn off my RCS when I went to hit forward, and threw my Kerbals directly out of their seats. Thankfully, we still have control of the vehicle, and so I'm currently trying to counteract its spin and try to get it back landed safely on all 4 wheels. But that is a little bit easier said than done. And there we are, face it backwards. Brakes are at full capacity though. They don't seem to be working very well. And this is quite a steep hill. I start to turn, unfortunately, and I know that if I let the craft continue to do that, it would just roll over. So I'm trying to fight it as best I can. But there's only so much you can do here. And we break the first piece off of our craft. One of the solar panels. At least we have a second one, so you know we can still find a way to charge, but won't charge as well. Do you see why I said saving before switching to your craft is a good idea? We're not gonna reload our save. We are just gonna deal with what has happened, but you know, you can play the game however you want to, and and if this is not how you want to play the game, then definitely save. But anyways, we are reaching the bottom of the hill, coming up to some pretty high speeds. Broke off our headlight, flipped around, broke off taillights. There we go. I thought that was going to happen a lot sooner. Broke off our taillights. and then finally came to a stop at the bottom of the hill. You know, eventually. And then it finally comes to a stop. And we once again have control. And if there was a milestone for the first breakdance around the Mun, we'd definitely be taking that home. But for now, we'll be happy with the first Kerbal boots in the dust. Let's go ahead and get our Kerbals back to the craft, because we can't let them stand out there on their own, because they'll be dead in a few hours of oxygen deprivation. So let's go ahead and get Wenless in the pilot seat first. And we'll switch back to Tomini. And we'll take his whole flight down. Wenless's flight was fairly uneventful, but Tomini, scientists are typically the worst RCS pilots imaginable, so we have to fly. Unfortunately, we have to fly in first person mode because I didn't change my key binding for the zoom in button. It's still attached to my throttle up button, so it's just simplicity's sake, it's so much easier to fly around in first person view now. At least I've gotten so much more used to it, so it's no POV. We're not meaning to try to take that, but it just it was the only way that I could safely guarantee that we get down here. And again, I use the word safely very generously. And he has slid to a stop, but he is still alive. Back up. And then we can see our craft over there to the right, so we're going to start heading that way. And then get him aboard. But yeah, I think that is kind of where we're going to leave today's episode. I have some big plans in the coming episodes. I'm going to get them a rescue craft. We're going to get them home. We're also going to travel around a couple different biomes if we can, collect some more science on our way to the rescue craft. But then we're going to bring these Kerbals home and with all the science they have. And then, I don't know what we're going to do. Maybe we might turn our sights on Minmus. Maybe we'll send a probe out into the solar orbit. Maybe we will design better crafts and land Kerbals in different places out here. So I'm not sure. If you have any ideas, any suggestions in which way you want our agency to go, I'm always all ears. So leave me a comment down below if you have an idea. We've got plenty of life support, so we're not in any rush. But anyways, that is where I'm going to leave today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're looking forward for more KXP. If you did think about subscribing, drop me a like, let me know your thoughts, and I will see y'all in the next one. Take care.